Hey, welcome to another broadcast, a live broadcast. It is Saturday, December the 20th, 2025. And I hope you guys are having a great weekend. And let's go ahead and get things started. And we're going to give people time to get on. And happy Saturday to you. We'll be starting here in just a little bit, giving people time to get on. Good to see we got Willie in the house as always. Really appreciate you, bro. Always. Really appreciate you. And then everybody else that's coming in. Good to have you guys here. Beautiful Saturday. Still nice and bright where we are in sunny Arizona. Temperature here is 76 degrees. I don't know what it is where you are. I know some places you still got snow going on and you got a lot of cold and all of that, but that ain't here. I'm not making fun. I'm born and raised in the Northeast, so I know what that's about, but I'm glad to be in a place where I can just bathe in the sun all day. And yeah, great weekend. And what you're hearing now is from our latest album called Go Solar. And you can find that over on our Samba Tree website. Again, that's sambatree.com. Make sure you check it out. This album has about over 20 songs on it. Over 20 songs on it that are kind of just like this. That 70s vibe, that 70s groove. And it's all instrumental. So if you're looking for that kind of vibe and groove, you could just play around the house. And it's just chill. But it kind of reminisce, sitting in the back seat of your parents' 1976 Cougar with the white leather seats and the green cart. Man, listen, this is the one to get. And check it out again. It's over on sambatree.com in the music section. We'll be starting here in the next 30 seconds. And then we're going to go and jump in. All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in to this broadcast. Again, happy Saturday to you guys. I hope you guys are having a great one. Yeah, really nice out there today. Did like I always do my breathing exercises. Hope you guys are doing that too. Starting your day off right, with your breathing exercises, getting your mind right, your heart right, and everything else. And yeah, that's the way to start it. And then from there, everything else can kind of fall into place. So good to have you guys here. So today, let me just start off and let you know, we're going to be getting into a topic that is not going to be suitable for all audiences. So if you're someone that's a bit squeamish, when it comes to medical stuff, if you are, if you got young people in the house and, you may think, because we're going to be talking about circumcision. So if that's something that, because we're going to be showing some pictures and all of that too. So, because we got to, we're going to talk about it. Okay. And so we're going to be getting into all of that. So, I'll let the parents decide ultimately, what to do in that situation, but I personally think it's you know, if they can watch some of this other stuff here, I mean, they could certainly watch that, and it's being presented in a very mature, sensitive way. You know, it's not like I'm showing someone getting their head blown off, you know, anything like that. So, but I just want to give heads up to the parents in the house to let you know, what we're going to be talking about today, what we're going to be getting into. And I'll explain why in just a moment. But first, just wanted to give you a heads up that we just put an e-blast out for Samba Tree. And we got something very good that's going to be happening tomorrow. I believe my wife and I will be, and we might have a video going out. I'm not sure. Don't know. We're still trying to figure that out. But anyway, just a friendly reminder, let our people know, yep, orders are in fact shipping. They are shipping. Okay. And a little delay there because of the sale. Tremendous amount of response. And we absolutely love it, but we have a small staff and they are working like nobody's business to get things out, and they are getting out. Okay. Nobody's running with your money or anything like that. We ain't that kind of people. All right. We are not that kind of people, but we're going to make sure everything gets out. And that's what's happening right now. So make sure you're checking your emails, for the latest updates and all of that stuff. And we got you. Okay. And everything's here. If you ordered on or before 12/12, what did I say? On or before 12/12. Please check your email within 48 hours for your shipping information. If any item is on back order, you will receive a notification via email from us. Okay, so we're going to give you all the information, your family. So we're going to keep you updated, okay? If anything should change or anything like that. So just to let you know. We have a new shipment in the meantime of natural stone pendants wrapped in pure copper. And we're going to be showcasing those, I believe, tomorrow. All right, so be on the lookout for that in your email. These are some beautiful, beautiful handmade pieces that we have here. And they're all going to be posted on, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? They're going to be posted on Samba Tree. So make sure you check that out. And here's some other ones here. We got some natural agate pendants. Will be wrapped in copper, hung on leather neck strap. You got that. Here's another one. Very beautiful pieces here. All kinds of stuff. All right, so you can check that out. That will be available over on our Samba Tree website. Again, that's sambatree.com. Also want to give you a heads up too. It is citrus season out here in Arizona. Did you know, by the way, since we're talking about copper, Arizona is like considered, I ain't gonna say the capital, but it's a major center for copper mines. So yeah, I mean, you're in the right place to get your copper if you're looking to get copper. And what better place to get it than from us here at sambatree.com. And also, we are in our citrus season. So next month, be on the lookout because we're going to be doing pre-orders in a little bit for citrus. That's lemons, that's grapefruit, and those are oranges as well. And of course, all of it is organic, and we'll be shipping those out like we did earlier this year. So be on the lookout for that as well. Okay. So I just want to get all of that out. So hopefully you got all of that. Okay. One other thing that's non-Samba related. Let me pull this up. Let me go to YouTube. You saw the video that I posted recently regarding the offer that I am doing. This is me. This is not Samba Tree. All right. That I am doing, here at Samba Journeys. Okay. And let me pull that up right here. And where is it? Right here. Where is it? Okay, here it is. Let's get it up. Get it up on the screens. Make sure you guys got this. We are all about keeping people, passing, sharing the knowledge, sharing the wealth of information that's out here. And I have, over the years, have amassed many books. I mean, many, many books. Now, these are digitized books, but I also have a ton of paperback books. And once we're finished getting everything sorted in here, I told you we just moved. I'm going to have to put all of these books, get them all out of boxes and stuff. I got a ton of books, and those are just paperback. But I have, digital books, probably about 2,000, if not more. I mean, I got a lot of books. And so this is just just over 700 books here. Okay. And I'm not going to tell you the names, okay, the titles of the books, but trust me, you're going to find a lot of books that maybe you have seen people talk about, when anytime Black history comes up, be it Black American history, be it history in Africa, wherever Black people have been, you're going to find those books. Economics, when it comes to economics, when it comes to education, when it comes to health and wellness, you're going to find a lot of those books in this pile that I have right here. And it's over 700 books. And guess how much I'm selling it for? $9.99. $9.99. That's it. That is it. So if you are looking to build your library, well, you don't even have to do the building because it's all here. Okay. And for those that do get this, it's a one-time. It's not like a monthly thing. I'm not doing that. It's just a one-time. That's it. For those that do this, I will be adding more over time. As I get time, I can add more things that I collect, because that's all I do. As I get my hands on information like that, I'm always sharing. And so this is a great way for you to make sure that you're getting that same information. And so on top of this, I will be adding even more books, even more studies, even all of that stuff. I'll just be saying, did you anytime when people ask me for links for stuff, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, are you part of this? Did you get this? Yes or no? There you go. $9.99. That's it. How do you get it? Cash App. Okay, you gotta do Cash App. I had someone reach out to me and they said, well, can you do PayPal? Not at this time. I ain't trying to mess with PayPal. Cash App. My Cash App is right here. Now, where did I get this from? This is, go to our community page, okay? What you see on your screen, or just take a screenshot while I'm talking, and it's right here. The instructions are here. Our Cash App is Forward Journey, just like that. And you'll see my wife and I's face up there. And, that's it. $9.99. In the notes field, please, please, please put your email address, because if you don't put your email address there, I'm not going to know who to send it to. All right. Put your email address there. And then what I'll do is, right from that source, I will be sending out a message. All right. I'm going to send out a message from that source, and it should have the link, and, so that you can gain access and all of that stuff. So please, when you do it, immediately, send it out. Give me about a day, and then I will send out the link or whatever. It usually is much sooner than that, but, make sure you check your spam folders and everything. Okay. But if you did not get anything back, if you paid for it and you say, where is it? Check your spam folders and all that stuff, and you still don't see it, reach back out to me. Okay. Leave a comment under this video or whatever, and I'll make sure you get it. Okay. But I'm sending it out. I've been doing it. And, but I just wanted to let you know, and, what we're doing. And I'm telling you, over 700 books, it's a wrap. If you got nephews and nieces, if you got, children that are being homeschooled or whatever, this will take them all the way through college. It will literally take them all the way through college. We are not playing here. All right. We're not playing. We want to pass the intel, all right, to our people. All right. And so this is a great way to do it. And so there you go. So make sure you check that out if you're looking into, and thank you, Cheryl, for that. Appreciate that. So make sure you check out our community page. Is right there. All right. Okay. So today we are going to touch on a topic that I have touched on numbers of times on this platform, but I was kind of thinking, the thought just came to me that I should rebroadcast this. And this is the topic of circumcision and the history of it and all of that stuff. And this is something, y'all, that we are going to need to understand and to know, because did you know that circumcision is really trauma? It's trauma. It is trauma to the body. Okay. This isn't like it's a requirement for you to live. It's, you know what I mean? it's required for you to have a normal life. You have to be circumcised. No, it's not. You know what that's saying? That's like saying that you basically were born with deficiencies. Not born with a deficiency. You know how we say that, just like a seed, everything that you need in life is already inside of you. We say things like that oftentimes, but I don't even think a lot of times we even believe it. And the proof is we don't. Many people don't. That's why they pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to all these gurus out here to tell you stuff that's already inside of you. It's already in you. But you paying thousands and thousands of dollars for people to tell you stuff that's already inside of you. Well, if you want this, you got to get the upgrade of this and, all of this. No, you don't need, no, it's in you already. You know what I'm saying? And so that's like, when you think of a fruit seed or whatever that, oh, we got to modify the seed so that it can be better. You don't have to modify a seed. It already has all the intelligence it needs. It's already inside. So likewise, you and me as human beings, everything we are born with, outside of someone being born with, 5 years or something crazy like that. But other than that, everything that you have been born with, it's what your body requires and needs. And what you're going to find out today is that piece that is on the man's part that they cut off, it is a very valuable piece that when it is traumatically removed from the human body, it does it creates some effects that go with these men oftentimes for the rest of their lives. And when I heard this information, it just really, I had a whole mix of emotions with this, because this society that we live in has normalized this stuff. And as I said, again, this is what we live in today. Is in the movie The Matrix was not just a movie, it was a documentary letting us know that, yes, the world that we live in today is a construct. It is a construct that is built by people that lean heavily on the practices of Judaism. Now, circumcision did not originate from Judaism. Circumcision is a practice that you can find literally all over the world. But for this particular construct, it is a westernized construct that leans heavily on the many of the principles of Judaism. All right. And you're going to find out in a moment. I'm going to tell you some things, and then I'm going to roll the video, and then you can watch. We're going to watch the video together. OK, this video has already been on our long form history channel, but I wanted, I just go with it. Some days I just feel inspired. Hey, you got to play that again. And that's what we're going to do. And as I'm making my way over there to tell you that, let me just share this with you. Candace Owens recently, it was very interesting. It was, yesterday I was watching her, and she is it's just quite something. I never thought I would see today, but she is, in her broadcast yesterday, she mentioned the fact that, talking about the history of Jews and all of that, she was talking about how, their involvement in the slave trade. She started going into that. I was like, oh, snap. She going there. And yeah, she went there. And, so you can look for the clip. She's talking about that. And as predicted, you got all of these people that are all in unison. Like I went on X today, and literally they all got their talking points, and they're like, oh, she's just repeating the Farrakhan lie. This is Farrakhan's lies. They're literally all of them are saying this. Now, you guys remember the book, The Secret History Between Blacks and Jews? Wink, wink. That's all I'm going to say. That wink is connected to something that I just mentioned to you a few moments ago. Wink, wink. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say. Anyway, well, this whole series, y'all. But anyway, but when that series came out, the first thing that people did, if you don't have that, you need to get your hands on that. That is a must for every black household. That is an absolute must. Because one thing I could say, I'm not a Muslim. I don't subscribe to anything, as far as their belief systems are concerned. But the one thing I can say about the Nation of Islam, one of the greatest things they did for Black Americans was to do that series. That was one of the greatest things they did, because what they did, the way they did it, it was everything that's in the book. The book is not commentary. The book is literally word for word repeating what's in their sources, what's in their books. And you can't deny it. I mean, if you're going to get mad at the people who wrote it. All they did was got together, put all the information in one book and said, here, Black America, read it for yourself. That's all they did. That's literally all they did. And people are out here saying, oh, it's a lie, it's that. And I've seen a few videos out where they're trying to debunk it, but it's like, are you debunking yourselves? Because you guys put this out here. That wasn't us. You guys put this out here. And so, I will be, so what I'm going to be doing soon, very, very, very soon. Let me see if I got it. That would be on my desktop here. Very, very soon, I will be sharing with you, I'm going to be going through a lot of their books, and we're going to do a readathon. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a readathon. Okay. And you're going to see books like this. And this is, let me see if I had the quote out of this book here. The Counter Jews Pioneers. Is this it? Yeah. Okay, this is it. Okay. So let me read for you. Let me put up here for you this here. Hold on for a second. Okay. So I'm going to put this one here. And I'm going to put this one. I'll read this first, and then I'll read the other one. Okay. All right. This is from their book. This is their book. This ain't from any other. They wrote this. Okay. African slaves could know. And so anyway, so people have been getting mad at Candace for mentioning this and saying all of this is false information. That's a complete lie, because this comes, if it's a lie, they're telling it. So in this book, they said African slaves could no longer be imported, yet sales of the blacks did not diminish, and none questioned their sources of origin. It was assumed by many in Barataria had become the major source of imported black ivory, quote unquote. Far and near, the slave traders flocked to the temple. Far and wide, far and near, the slave traders flocked to the temple. And that wasn't a club, y'all, okay? And that ain't Temple University either. The prices controlled by Lafitte, again, this is a Jewish person, gave both the pirate sellers and plantation and city buyers a handsome profit. Safe escort was assured for all by order of Jean Lafitte. No Baratarian dared disobey. New Orleans businessman David G. Sixas, I hope I'm saying his name right, who owned a few slaves, acquired a schooner and possibly arranged for their shipment. And let me go to the next image here. Transport. His uncle, Abraham Mendez Sisas, I hope I'm saying that right, who engaged in the slave trade at Charleston, composed the following doggerel, and it's like a song, published in the South Carolina State Gazette. And let's read it. And so it goes like this. Abraham Sisas, I guess that's what it is, also gracious, once again does offer his services pure, for to secure money in the coffer. He has for sale some Negroes, male, will suit full well grooms. He has likewise some of their wives, can make clean dirty rooms. For planting too, he has a few to sell, all for the cash, of various price, to work the rice or bring them to the lash. The young ones true, if that will do, May some be had of him to learn your trade, or may be made, or bring them to your trim. The boatmen great will you elate. They are so brisk and free. Whatever you say, they will obey if you buy them of me. Oh, yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir. I told you I'm not playing. I am not. In fact, I put a challenge out to anybody. I mean, literally anybody. If they want to go down this road and try to deny any of this stuff, we already have tons and tons of their stuff. And here's another source here. I won't go through this today right now because I'm trying to get to the topic at hand. But this is another source. I have all of this stuff. And when I tell you we're giving this stuff out, because we want to make sure you have it too. So we're not playing. Okay, so we're going to be well informed on this. So because I told you 2026, they're already ramping up to try to push back against this stuff and try to tell you that none of this stuff ever happened, but you are going to be equipped with the information. And we're going to make sure that on this platform here. Okay. So anyway, so let's go ahead and move on to the topic at hand as far as this circumcision is concerned. Okay. So anyway, with circumcision, it is a ritual. Many people believe that it is something that came from the Bible. They believe that this was a practice that started from God, told Abraham this or something, or whatever. If you can't even prove outside of the Bible that Abraham existed, where did this actually come from? Where did this actually come from? Well, that's what we're here to find out. And so with that being said, give me just a moment here. Let me history, and we're just going to roll the video, and we're going to play it. And from time to time, I may stop it. But in this video, the treat, as far as I'm concerned, in this one is my wife is in it too. And this was actually a 4.5 long hour presentation I did, but I greatly cut that down because there was a lot of other stuff in there too. But anyway, so we're going to start with the first one here. Give me just a moment here. Let me just get it queued up for you. And that's it. And you don't worry. Yep. We're going to look in the Bible too. We're going to go through all of that. Okay. But I'm doing this for the benefit of those who have not watched that series or because I actually broke it up into a series. This for the benefit of people who have not seen it, or you need to watch it again. Okay. So without further ado, let me go ahead and start playing this. And like I said, from time to time, I will stop and may interject with some other stuff here. There is one other thing. I'm sorry, regarding this topic here. There is one other thing. I'm sorry. I just remembered. Let me see if I can find it here. Hold on. Shoot, where did I put it? Had it queued up. Hold on. Is this it? Okay. All right. I'll just pull it up here. Okay. I'll just pull it. I have something here. I'll just pull it up here. Okay. So circumcision here in America, have you ever stopped to think, why is it? Because circumcision, as far as we know here in America, we just think, well, America is a holy nation, a Christian nation, and all that kind of stuff. And, really? I mean, you actually believe that? You actually believe that America is this set apart, holy nation and all of that, but yet they are, in hospitals, many times they make it almost mandatory, almost mandatory. You can, unless you speak out, they won't do it, but they will still do it. They will still do the whole circumcision thing. But it's so intertwined with the whole birthing process of young boys. Where did that come from? Well, I'll just give you this and then we'll play the video. It actually came from a lot of different people that voiced into this, but it came from the same person that was behind your breakfast table, the stuff that you put on your breakfast table. Yeah. John Harvey Kellogg. John Harvey Kellogg. And, from a religious standpoint, he was a Seventh-day Adventist. But he actually believed that this was something that all boys needed to go through. Now, you're going to probably fall off your chair when you hear this. He openly promoted circumcision as a punishment and deterrent, not as a health necessity. Kellogg explicitly recommended circumcision without anesthesia, so the pain would permanently discourage sexual behavior. Let me read that to you again. He openly promoted circumcision as a punishment and deterrent, not as a health necessity. Kellogg explicitly recommended circumcision without anesthesia, so the pain would permanently discourage sexual behavior. Now, let's stop there for a second and really think about this. So this guy, the guy that makes your cereals, he came up with this idea that was inspired by something he read in his Bible to incorporate a process, a procedure that would be so painful and so traumatic that it would go with these young boys for the rest of their lives. Knowing full well, according to, like he said, it was going to have an impact on them sexually. Okay, and we're going to get into that as the video's playing. You're going to hear me explain all of that and the impact this has with men, their relationship with women on a sexual level, but also in an emotional level as well. We're going to get into all of that, and it's all of this can be stemmed from what took place on that table. We're going to take you into the operating room. I'm going to show you the table that they use to circumcise young men, young boys. We're going to talk about that. But this is the demonic origins of this procedure. It did not start in your Bible. Okay? So anyway, with that being said, now we can go ahead and get to this video, and we can go ahead and roll it. Okay? So let me put this up on the screen, and let's go. Just hate us or whatever. They just hate us or whatever. It's more than just that. These are people who for centuries have studied you from the top down. And I mean, I'm talking about your body, everything about your body, everything about your mind, and everything even about your spirit. These are demonic. So with that being said, what I'll do is let me bring up this slide here. And the first person we're going to be talking, she's going to talk about is this guy by the name of Alfred Kingsley. And as you can guess, you don't have to guess, yes, he was very Jewish. Okay. And I'm going to play this clip from this woman here. And let me get that up for you. And let me see. All right. Let me go ahead and bring this up here. And there'll be times as I'm playing these videos that you'll definitely hear me like stopping here and there. Okay. And that's, I'm just going to have to do that. But the entire videos that I will be showcasing today are already posted here on BondTube. Okay. You'll be able to see that, watch it on your own time. Okay. We're just going to be highlighting. We're going to be chopping them up a little bit today. And that's it. So this first one, I'm supposed to start at 11:20. All right. So the first symbol you're going to see, you're going to be like, oh, snap. But just keep in mind what I said. Okay. All right. So let me go to 11:20. All right, there you go. All right, so let me get my face up here too. Let's see how I do that. Okay, so you guys can hear me. Okay, so you'll hear my voice. You won't see us, but you'll hear my voice. Okay, let me scroll to 11:20.
That's it.
And I have this woman's name. I texted it to you. Yeah, Nicole will tell you in a moment. But let me go ahead and post. Go.
What is the Creator's energy to bring forth life, harnessing that.
And I'm sorry, I'm just going to inject real quick, because I was just reading someone's comment. Even if you have a child or you just had a child and you're just finding this out now, we're not going to just leave you there. There is hope. Okay, there are things naturally and all of that that can be done. Okay, as far as what was done, there are things that just hang in there. Okay, we're not going to just give you the bad stuff or whatever. We're going to tell you. I'll also inject all of that other stuff too on what can be done now is after the fact. Okay, because I need to know that too. But guess who else was circumcised? Me. Okay, and many other people. My son, he was circumcised. So anyway, I ain't gonna leave you there. Okay, so let's go.
Beautiful, love-based, life-creating force for evil. And we are participating. And I'm going to show you how. So let me just briefly say, Alfred Kinsey was a sexual psychopath. He believed that the only unnatural sex act is what you cannot perform. Everything's natural, and it's all legitimate and good. That includes bestiality, incest, prostitution, group sex, right? Transvestitism, sadomasochism. All of this is normal and good. It's beneficial. Hey, if it feels good, do it. That's what Kinsey's attitude was. That's what the Rockefellers' attitude is. That's what the Luciferians promote. Am I right? We all know this. So again, Kinsey worked to overthrow all laws prohibiting any of these things. And I want to tell you how disgusting and sick in the mind that this man was. Okay? He took a toothbrush during masturbation, as you can read, and shoved it up into his urethra. And he filmed it for his pornographic collection, which he boasted was the second largest in the world at the Kinsey Institute at the University of Indiana, which still exists to this day. He circumcised himself with a pocket knife. Okay, here's the most psychotic thing I've read about him. He took a rope and tied the rope around his scrotum. He took the other end of the rope, put it up on a pipe over the ceiling, wrapped it around his hand. He was standing on a chair, and then he jumped off the chair. And he hung himself by his balls from the ceiling. Welcome to the world of Rockefeller-funded sex research, my friends. Okay. So he died early, of course, from a disease called orchitis, or I don't know how to say it, which is a lethal infection of his testicles, because of all of what he was doing to himself. Obviously, this man was ritually tortured in childhood. Obviously, this is a victim of satanic ritual abuse. There can be no question about this based on his activities. All right, he also believed that pedophilia was good and that the public didn't recognize the benefits of adults having sex with children. How beneficial this is for children. Okay, if society didn't make such a big deal about it, the children would have no problems. It's no problem if you steal their innocence and their purity and try to rape them and steal their life force. That's not a problem. It's good for them, so that they too can grow up to become psychopaths and Luciferians. All right, so his research involved the molestation of children. And as you can see, the bottom two here, he had a 4-year-old that was manipulated, in his words, for 24 hours straight and said to have 26 orgasms in that 24-hour period. 11-month-old said to have 14 orgasms in 38 minutes. All right, let's take a quick look at one of the charts out of Kinsey's books. And look at the age of the children, 5 months, 3 orgasms. We don't know how long that took. And on it goes, folks. A 10-year-old, 24 hours manipulated straight. A 4-year-old, 24 hours manipulated straight. These children obviously were being tied down or restrained in some way so that a pedophile could sexually molest them for Kinsey's research.
And y'all, let me just stop here. Let me just stop here for a second. Do you hear this? Do you hear this? This is Kinsey. This is Kinsey. They made a whole movie about him. They romanticize this dude, but they leave that part out. Yes, he's Jewish. This is the kind of research that was going on a major university here in the United States. He was doing this kind of stuff. He was conducting this kind of research on children. They left that part out. I think Liam Neeson played him in the movie. They did a whole movie about him. They romanticize him. He's this or that or whatever, but they leave that part out. And we're supposed to overlook that? You as a parent, particularly, I'm speaking to you black parents, this Kinsey and his work is served as part of the foundation of the American medical institution. And they have taken his research and they blended it all into that platform. And you as a black parent, knowing your history, you're going to trust this system to take care of your children, knowing that these are the types of sources that they're pulling from, people that practice this kind of stuff. I'm supposed to look over that. We're just supposed to it's whatever. You're not deep enough. You don't have I don't need a PhD. Anyway, just sometimes I got to stop this stuff because I want people to make sure you taking this in and you hearing this. Anyway.
Let's have a quick look at Kinsey's definition of orgasm in children. Extreme tension with violent, whole body or parts of it spasmodically twitching, violent cries, sometimes with an abundance of scream. If movement is continued, members of this group fight away from the partner, not the molester, the partner, and they may make violent attempts to avoid climax, although they derive definite pleasure from this. So welcome to the world of Alfred Kinsey and his research team. So this research of Alfred Kinsey's has been used to prove that children are sexually active from birth and also that they're naturally homosexual. Kinsey was a homosexual.
Okay, so I'm going to continue to play it here, but you may say, whoa, we starting off hard like this? Yes, we are. And this is just the beginning. Because I want you to really understand that how these people, I want you to understand that marching, what we are as a people, black folks, we've been doing to fight against whatever, you trying to deal with that with marching. I'm saying, in other words, you want to say that, the injustice of white people, you're looking at this thing one-dimensionally. Meanwhile, they're taking our children behind the scenes and they're studying you at this level. Trying to figure out from birth, and we'll get into that, what exactly they have been doing to try to figure you out. Because orgasm, it's not only a natural thing, but it's also a spiritual event. And these people know this. And then we're going to talk about in a minute here what they have done with that. Okay. But yeah, we're hearing all the sickness of this man. even though he may have been loony as any tune, but he wasn't that loony because a lot of his work, all this stuff that she's going through, this whole list she's going through is being used today. This is why you see today, them trying to push little children. All of a sudden now all over the place, you got these trannies out here having parties and stuff like that where they got little children out there and they training them and teaching them and, and all this, having this education in the schools and be whoever you want to be and, all this other stuff. It all comes, this is the person that we're hearing. Comes from all his work. All his work, and his work is still, like she said, according to him, still at the University of Indiana. It's still there. They're still pulling from it.
Did you tell me, I may be wrong, did you tell me that the modern sex education curriculum or whatever was inspired by some of his work, or did I hear you wrong on that?
It is. Yeah, it is.
Sex education.
It all comes from him. All of it. All of this stuff comes from him. He is acknowledged as the father of all of this stuff. They did a movie with him. There's supposed to have been a movie with what's the dude in Taken, whatever the actor or whatever, and he played him.
Liam Neeson.
And he was this is a man that's revered, and they're still pulling from his stuff. And they're applying it to the shows that you see, the movies and all this stuff. They're still pulling from it. All right, so we're gonna play a little bit more of this particular clip, and then we're gonna switch it up a little bit. Okay, let's go.
A pedophile and a homosexual. I'll call him a bisexual because he also had sex with women, but he preferred having sex with young boys. All right, so his research is said to have proven that human children have sexual instincts before puberty. Now, I am going to stress that this would distinguish humans from every other mammal. Okay, mammals become sexually active when they are ready to reproduce. And such a difference between mankind and all other mammals cannot be explained through biological evolution.
And I told you I'm going to be stopping and going or whatever. What she said is very, very important. If you look at animals, they don't become animal. When you see a dog or a cat or whatever, or a squirrel or whatever, they don't come out of the womb ready to mingle. You know what I'm saying? They don't come out like that. They live their life. They enjoy. You see, if you go on YouTube, you see animals playing. They had that full time of playing. Like, I love looking at videos of like little baby goats and sheep and all that. They just be practicing how to jump up and down and, and just be having a good old time. And that's animals. They do that. Well, likewise with us, we're not animals, but likewise with children, when we come out of the womb, sex is the furthest thing from your mind. You ain't thinking nothing like that. And then once you're able to figure things out, the first thing you want to do after you eat and all of that, you want to play. But what we're going to be getting into and what she's talking about here, this is just the front door, ladies and gentlemen, is that the moment that you are birthed, the first thing they come after are there are things that are done to your body where they immediately want to activate that sexual part of you. That's unnatural. And by doing that, it has a direct impact on you. It goes with you for a good part of your life. All right, let's go.
All right, the fact that we believe that we should be having sex without reproduction and that that's beneficial in the way the Creator designed us to do it cannot be explained through biological evolution, but it can be explained through mind control. So what they wanted was to legitimize pedophilia and get people to believe that children can benefit from sex with adults. What they wanted, because again, this is a Luciferian agenda. For those who don't have a clarity about what that is, that means there is a rebellion against the Creator. There is a rebellion against the Creator's design. And so what we want to do is destroy the natural order if we're Luciferian. We want to destroy the Creator's design. We want to mock it at every opportunity we can get. And especially the most sacred aspects of it which involve the creation of life, the renewal and regeneration of life. All right, so they wanted to convince Americans, and they have, that physical pleasure is what matters. It's what it's all about.
Sorry, okay. So I think that's the first clip I wanted to show you. Now we're going to transition to, you can't see the slide, but I can. You'll see the slide, but basically the slide is more so for me. We're going to transition a little bit. Now we're going to get into, because she was continuing in this discussion, then she transitioned to pornography and the impact of pornography. Okay, so the first clip that you're going to see, let me scroll on here to 30. Yeah, I will. Let's see. Yeah, I just wanted to, so that's the slide there. It's a pornography is a satanic ritual. Make no mistake about it. It is a satanic ritual. Mm-hmm. And she is going to break it down. Many of us, we already know, we're very aware of some aspects of this. What she's going to be getting into is what it does from a neurological perspective. We're going to get into that and what it does, the imprinting and all of that. And so she's going to talk about that. Okay, so let me bring this video back up here, and I'm going to scroll to the 30-minute mark here. Hold on.
Now, here's what people most need to know, in addition to the sodomy piece. Please forgive me for how painful this is. I wish I could present this in a way that would not be painful. I haven't found a way to do it. So the porn industry is replete with demonic influences, and I want to stress, I'm in the middle of writing my book about how to have an ecstatic, love-filled birth, and I realize you cannot have an ecstatic, love-filled birth if you've had a conception that's based on porn. We got to get rid of these pornographic influence in our lives. And I start researching, and all these people who are in the industry are coming out and saying things like this. I'm not exaggerating by stating that many Los Angeles porn industry professionals are Satanists and have the intention of destroying those who believe in God. Another one says, in porn, the producers and the film editors who edit the final film for the public cast spells into the final cuts of the film, and these spells are to cast demons into the films so that when you watch the films, these demons can influence your lives. Here we have a survivor of satanic ritual abuse, Kurth Barker, whose books I'm sharing at my table. I encourage people to please look at his work. Okay? Kurth was raised, by the way, in a satanic cult to be Kathy. Every time he was with the Luciferian cult, he had to dress as a girl, present himself as a girl. He was involved, had to do child pornography and sexually service these psychopaths while he was dressed as a girl because they get off on this kind of shit. This is the agenda of transgenderism, folks, right, is to separate the children from their core personalities and create alter personalities, surgical alteration of your genitals, nor is it normal for these psychopaths that will be in service to these psychopaths' penises. This is all connected. Every aspect of this is part of the Luciferian design. Kurth Barker says,
and let me stop it here for just a second. I know we looks like we're having some broadcasting issues here. Let me just check and see. I'm just going to check here for a moment. But if you're just joining us, welcome to the broadcast. So glad that you guys can join us. Yes, this topic that we're talking about, again, we're talking about circumcision, the history behind it, where it came from. If you're an individual who believes that circumcision is something that started in your Bible, that it came from, well, it all started with Abraham and all of that. If you believe that, then I have to tell you that no, you would be historically and factually incorrect. And so what we're doing is that when you're talking about a topic like this, you have to go into what it's all connected to, right? And so that's what she's doing right now, is that circumcision, number one. Now, we also know you have female circumcision too, right? And that is a thing, all right? That is a thing that you'll find in many places, that they fight against this kind of practice, and as well as they should. But when it comes to circumcision of men, it becomes normalized, that it's okay and this is fine, and you should be doing this anyway, and all of this other stuff, right? But the fact of the matter is, regardless if we're talking about circumcision with boys or young girls, it is not a practice that neither should be engaged in at all. I have even gone butt heads with people from the continent of Africa that want to try to tell me that their practice is, well, we've been doing this for, my tribe, we've been engaged in this for, thousands of years or whatever, and we had no problems. Well, I have a special section for you. We're going to get into that as well. Okay, so even though it may not seem as if she's talking about circumcision directly, she actually is. And so, like I said, it's a lot of information, but all of this, once we actually get into the circumcision, where we're specifically talking about what happens to the child and all that other stuff, all of this that's being said right now, it's all going to make sense. Okay, it's all going to come together. So that's why I was saying I wanted to, so just, if you're looking and you're like, okay, what I don't understand how. Just hang on, because all of this is definitely connected. Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and continue to play the video. I was just doing that for the sake of those that are just joining us. Okay. All right. Let's go. And again, if this is a sensitive topic, okay, and it's one for mature audiences only. Okay. But we're going to need to watch it. All right. So you, as a parent, ultimately you make the choice and the decision for your children on that, okay?
As a man in which Satan would give them power in the world, because that's what pornography is. It is with an intention, and that intention is Luciferian manipulation, to establishing a psychic connection with the viewers, to demonically influence them, to block their connection with the real creator.
And you guys, I'm sorry, what I have to do here, because I'm having some streaming difficulties here. Give me just a moment. I'm going to see if I can do something here. Just give me a moment, because I see what's going on, because it's like I'm doubling the amount of data I'm using. So it's like slowing things down. So just give me a moment here. Let me see if I can get this together here so that we're not running into this issue here. Just give me a moment here. And I do apologize. I should have thought of this earlier, doing this earlier, but give me a moment. Where is it? All right, let me see if this thing will let me do this. I don't know if it will or not, but let's see. Shoot. All right, hold on. All right, let me try here. Hold on. Okay. All right. What I'm going to have to do then is this. Okay. Okay. All right. All right, so just give me about, looks like another minute and a half. What's happening basically is that I'm playing the video from our channel. I'm streaming it from our channel, and then I'm restreaming it again. So what's happening is it's like I'm using a whole lot of data. So as a result of that, the amount of data they allow you, is like, whoa, it's too much. And so it keeps stopping the broadcast, but I actually have, the native file. So what I'm gonna do is play that instead. And then you're just gonna see me kind of skipping through so I can get to that part. The reason why I was playing it from that page, from our YouTube page, is because that's the edited version. So I'm gonna have to like skip some things or whatever, in this case here. So let's go ahead and do that, and hopefully we won't have any problems here. Okay, so just bear with me. It's just about downloaded. Okay, got it. All right, let's go to downloads here. Recents. Oh, did I put it on desktop? Must be. Okay, yeah, it's right here. All right. Okay, so I am going to move this over to here. And yeah, there'll be some skipping, okay? There'll be some skipping I'm gonna need to do. So, all right, here we go. Dropping the video now. Listen, so as I'm reading safety and with
no one really cares.
They say Judea.
Now, wait a minute. Now,
Dealing with little children.
will probably be.
That will be, for some people, it's the same thing. You go on and keep on fighting. Movies, all these
someone's
note of, and that Hollywood, they of it at least. So anyway, so let me go ahead and press play. All right, can you hear? Okay, there you go. I was up here running my mouth. Let me say it again. Sorry about all of this, y'all. Just some brief technical boop boops here. Okay, so basically, long story short, there was a lot of things that she was saying that was really good. She was just where she was getting into. She was talking about the impact of pornography on small children and all of that, and how it leaves a permanent imprint in the minds and the neurological makeup of children. And and she was really getting into that, and she was about to tie it all into what they do with circumcision. So we're going to go ahead and jump ahead. If you want to continue to listen to what she was saying, and I would encourage you to do that, make sure you go to our long form history channel, and then you can watch it there. It's just that if I try to play it here, it's going to give me some problems here. So I can't do that here. So anyway, so what we're going to do is let me play this clip here, because this was going to be the next clip after her anyway. So let me go ahead and play this clip. Let's take a listen to what this guy is saying, because now we're getting into the circumcision part of it. Let's go here, and we're going to find out a little bit. Like I said, I don't know if we're going to watch the whole thing, but we'll watch part of it. Okay.
Men are good. Indeed, men are good, as are you. And today we're going to talk about circumcision. Follow the money. Now, why follow the money? That doesn't make any sense. Why follow the money? Well, because the money, I think, in the United States holds circumcision in place, keeps it going. And I think you're going to be surprised at all the different places where money ends up having to do with circumcision. So let's see where we go from here. Let's start with a little levity. Your son has a condition called normal penis, but we can fix it for the price of $350 and your total unwillingness to question why he was born that way. Oh man, isn't it the truth? I mean, they're fixing, quote, fixing a normal penis. There's nothing wrong with it. They're going to snap it right off. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Well, it all starts in the hospitals, right? Let's say it's $350 per procedure. Okay. And you know how many circumcisions there are a year in the U.S.? About 1 million. So that business is what? That's about $350 million a year just for the operation. Oh boy, ring-a-ding-ding indeed. That's just the operation. It's $350 million a year. People don't want to give that up. But then it gets worse. Somehow these foreskins get out into the public domain, but you would think the hospitals are doing it. They're not donating them. You'd think they were selling them, but it's very difficult to find a hospital who's saying we're selling foreskins. And I think a part of that is because it's against the law to sell human organs, right? And the skin is an organ. So in some ways, it's against the law to do this. But they do sell them, I think. And the estimate, one guy said that he thought they sold them for about $35 a piece, which seems really low. And you'll see why we're thinking that's really low when we get to the later part of things. But even if it's $35 a piece, that's $35 million there again. Chalk it up. Here we go. Now, this is a map of circumcision around the world, and the green countries are where circumcision is more prevalent, with the darker green being more prevalent, and the blue countries being where it's less prevalent, and the darker blue being where it's less prevalent. Okay? So you can see the U.S. and Africa are pretty much standing alone in being places where circumcision is prevalent. Why would that be? Why could that possibly be? That doesn't make a bit of sense. Oh boy. You think of hospitals as being places where, you're going to go and have some wonderful procedure done. It's going to be sterile and people are going to care about you. They're going to, see you in a whoopsie. They're going to see you in loving sorts of ways and they're going to take care of you. And right? What you don't think about is going there and finding a torture rack. Look at that. Look at that torture rack. That's got these, let's have a closer look at that. It's got these little things where it straps the infant down, holds the infant's little arms, holds the infant's little legs, holds him in place so he can't move. He's got to struggle, but he can't move. And the doctor, whoever, chops off a part of his penis. Now, how barbaric is that? How totally barbaric is that? Totally normal kid, and we're chopping off a part of their genitals. Imagine just for a second that we had those torture racks for little baby girls, and we strapped them down, and we cut off their clitoral hoods, which is very similar to the foreskin in some ways. Not as big, but it's very similar. We cut them off, right? How long would people stand for that? It would be abusive. It would be seen as should be against the law, right? But with little boys, it's not seen as against the law at all. No one really cares. In fact, the arguments the doctors give to promote circumcision are really anemic. They talk about urinary tract infections. I don't know about you, but as a man and a boy, I never had a urinary tract infection. And my son, I don't think he ever had a urinary tract infection. Now, I know girls do and women do, but saying it's going to make him less likely to get urinary tract infections, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But the next excuse is even worse. They say, oh, it will keep him from getting cancer of the penis. That's a terrible thing, cancer of the penis. And it is a terrible thing. But that's not really a good reason to cut someone's penis off. That doesn't make any sense at all. Why does it make sense? Penile cancer is relatively rare globally, with an annual incidence of less than 1 case per 100,000 persons. Huh. Okay, so maybe it's going to make it so that it's 1 chance in 150,000 people. BFD. Do you know what the chances of getting struck by lightning are? They're about 1 in 100,000. Maybe, I think it's 106,000 or something like that. But come on. That's crazy. Now, make matters worse, I mean, think about it. Here you've got this little boy, sometimes not anesthetized. He's just a week old.
I'm going to skip a little bit.
They strap him. What happens after that? Who do they sell this stuff to? Well, have a look at this. Lifeline. This company is selling you for $533. You too can buy foreskins. Oh, God. Yeah. Human dermal fibroblasts neonatal. That means foreskin. And they sell it 500,000 cells or more. And they sell it for about $533. Yeah. That's just one. Here's another one. A human dermal fibroblast neonatal. That means foreskins. Thermo Fisher Scientific. Huh? Where did they get these foreskins? We don't know where they got them. But probably they got them from hospitals. Now, some of the people say, oh, these are all Korean foreskins from Korean babies. And you know what? I don't care if they're from Koreans or Martians or whatever. Chopping off a foreskin's wrong, and using it in this kind of thing is wrong too. And selling it, making a lot of money on it, there's something wrong with that. Here's another Lonzo, human dermal fibroblast, neonatal. In other words, little baby boys' foreskins. This one's $570. And you can see it because it's behind me. $570. Let's put me back. There he goes. Anyway, so these people are selling it for a lot of money. And think about how much money that is. So the foreskins are sold to these companies. These companies then turn it into a solution of some sort. And then they sell it again for $500 for a little teeny bit. And guess what? They sell it for all kinds of things. One of the things they're selling it for is this skin, where they're making skin in the laboratory. I call it lab skin. And they make it out of cow fat and foreskins, if you can believe that. And that's what they do. And then the uses of these lab skins is really amazing. You know, that it speeds up the healing in what do they call it, diabetic ulcers, and in wounds that have a hard time healing. I mean, it does really good things, but let's find some other cells to use other than baby foreskins. But that's what they're doing with it. And these companies then sell this, they buy this foreskins from these people who probably bought them from the hospital. They buy the foreskins, and then they create the skin, you know. Oh boy. Let's see, they create the skin, and then what do? Here it is. Companies are making human skin in labs to curb human testing products. Yeah, and here's what they say. They say, L'Oreal's Episkin is tempering the public outcry over animal testing paths plagued the cosmetics industry for decades. In other words, they're doing this to keep from having to test animals. But read the next part. The raw materials for Epiderm is human skin cells retrieved from surgical waste following cosmetic surgeries and circumcisions. Okay, so wait a minute. They're not going to be unkind to animals. They're not going to shave off the rabbit's fur and then test on the skin with that. They're going to cut off baby penises instead. What kind of trade-off is that? To me, that's not moral. That's immoral. And they've been doing this for a while. Well, you hear later from one of the L'Oreal experts that they've been doing it for 30 years. So they make this skin and they sell the skin and they use it for they replace the animal testing with using this fake skin, which is made out of foreskin. Oh boy. And it's crazy, crazy, crazy. And it turns out that one foreskin can make a large amount of skin. So someone said someplace, and I'm not sure this is true or not, but someone said that one foreskin could make as much as a football field's worth of fake skin. So, let's see, initial investment, $35 from the foreskin, then $535 if you're going to buy it from the secondary people, and then they turn it into big, big money after that. Gracious goodness. Let's see here.
Okay, give me a moment here. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit, but hopefully you can hear me. Okay, yeah, you should be able to hear me. And welcome to everybody that's just joining us in the chat, or just joining us in this video here. Yeah, so in this part here, this gentleman, he's going through and showing you all the money that they are making off of these foreskins. See, you never thought of that, did you? If you are a parent and you had your child circumcised, you know, in the hospital, and you're like, oh yeah, we got it done and all blah, 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 you know, you got it all done, right? And then, oh, look at they, and they're like, okay, well, here's some medicine here. Here's some medicine. They're going to be okay and all of that, right? And they give you, and then you just like, okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and just go along with it. And okay, well, you know, Junior, don't cry, all of that. And what they do is what? They take that foreskin and they actually are selling it to other manufacturers where they're able to make hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. You ever thought of that? So a lot of times we are sitting here worrying about, you know, I know there's been a lot of discussion about melanin and how these people are taking black melanin of black folks and making a killing off of it. But nobody's really talking about the foreskins of black boys and what they're doing with it, or the foreskins of boys, period. Nobody's having that kind of conversation. And just imagine the kind of stuff that they're developing with these things. All right. So I've given you the financial part of it so far. We've also talked about the people behind it. If you're just joining us, we talked about how Mr. Kellogg, the guy that's behind your breakfast cereals, thought it would be an excellent idea for hospitals to mandate or to semi-mandate circumcision, because he felt this was a way to instill inside of boys better sexual control. That's where this whole circumcision enforcement thing came from. Go back to the beginning of the video. We talked about that, okay? So now what we're going to get into is a little of the history part of it, okay? So let me go ahead and switch over to that. And again, thank you as always for your patience, because, yeah, I had a little technical stuff here, but I think we're good now. So let me go ahead and play this. Oh, and I would, and if you want to see the unedited version, go to our long form history YouTube channel. And I broke it up into 2 videos. I'm just trying to condense it all in one video in this broadcast here. But anyway, let's go ahead and play this video. Out here, you use L'Oreal products, you know, and you can look up the article itself. They tell you that. I actually looked it up. I said, let me pause this video. Let me watch this. Let me look this up for myself. And sure enough, it says it right in the article that, yes, that L'Oreal, and if L'Oreal's doing it, you know, all the other companies are doing it as well. They're using, you know, some ingredients. The ingredients include the foreskins of children. Now, again, going back to what we were saying last week, you know, we answered the question. Like, some people may say, well, wait a minute now, you know, we're supposed to be circumcised, right? Because the Bible talks about how the importance of being circumcised and, you know, and cutting that off. Again, we established that. Go back. If you haven't watched that video, watch that again. And basically, to really like compact it here a little bit, you have to ask yourself, when the Most High, because we start off the conversation with this and ask the question, now, the Most High, when he created man, when he created all creation, he said it was good. Everything was perfect. It was good. Why then, when the Most High said, what? But your penis, you're going to have to cut a little bit off of that, because, you know, that ain't good. So you're going to have to cut that off and dedicate that part to me. What we also pointed out was the fact that circumcision was not something that was started by what we call Israel. Circumcision was going on way before Israel. In fact, it was going on as far back as Babylon. And I showed you different images. Let me see if I can just refresh some people, because we may have some new people up in the house here. Going back here again, I'm showing you, getting ready to show a picture of some old penises, like that carved in the wall. Okay, so ain't nothing hard. You know, maybe hard for some people, but anyway. But right here, you know, so you had it going on in Egypt, Greece, and in Rome. These are the main like civilizations that you had going on here, you know, and that's not including, I'm sure, in Africa. There was some, you can look in some African cultures, they they were also doing circumcision as well. And this is what you're looking at is a circumcised penis. Now, these were the Gentiles. These were the people that were not set apart. But yet here you have these ancient cultures that have established that this was something that was to be worshiped. It was something to be very proud of. So now we have a problem here, because here you have the Most High saying, you guys need to be set apart. So you can't be like those people. So what I want you to do is to circumcise yourself. Wait a minute. We're being just like them if we circumcise ourselves. And that's what we established on last week. And so here we're in America, which is one of the most evilest countries known to man right now, that has been pretty much mandating for years. They've always pretty much give people the choice, but they were really hard up and really pushing this until it got into our psyche where parents just automatically, say, hey, listen, yeah, go ahead and get my child circumcised. And it has been reportedly going down here in the United States, but for the most part, it's higher than most places in the world. Here you have a wicked country pushing an agenda that up to this point we thought was a sign that you're set apart for holiness. That doesn't make sense, does it? So what does that tell us? It ain't a sign for holiness. It's doing what the other people have been doing. Again, and where does this come from? Where does this circumcision thing come from? This teaching comes from? It comes out of Judaism. It comes from Judaism. I'm going to share with you a couple of passages from a book that we just received. And then from there, I think, Nicole, this will be a good time for you to come in and share what you had as well. And we're going to continue on. We're not going to, let me see here. Let me just get to where I need to be. So I showed the video. Okay, so this is the book here. I'm going to be reading a couple of passages from here. Let me get it on the screen so you can see it. It's not on Amazon. It wasn't on Amazon, right? No. Just do a search, for the name of the author that's on here and then title of this book, and it will bring up her website, and then you just order it from her. She was very quick. It didn't take. All right, let me jump in here real quick. So that's the book. The lady that I was playing earlier that was talking, that's her book. Okay, so make sure you check it out. If you're a parent, I would definitely advise for you to get it. And just get it, period. So just look it up, take a screenshot of this, take a screenshot of it. Okay. Don't ask me to give you a link. Take a screenshot and order the book. I don't have it. I have a hard copy. I don't have a digital copy of it, but I would advise everyone to get this book because she really goes through and talk about exactly what the title says: birth trauma and the dark side of modern medicine, and especially what happens when a child is circumcised, when a young boy is circumcised. This is what this book is about here. Let me kind of speed things up here a little bit. Because remember, I told you this was like a part 1 and a part 2 here. Let's jump to here, and let's just jump to this, okay? All right, so name of this book is called Marked in Your Flesh, Circumcision from Ancient Judea to Modern America. And then I think my wife is going to be talking here. Hold on.
And see what I can find. Well, actually, Dwayne found something and sent it to me. And let me just say this. He's going to bring it up on the screen.
It's on the screen now.
Oh, it is on the screen. Mm-hmm. It's a book. The book is called Marked in Your Flesh, Circumcision from Ancient Judea to Modern America by Leonard B. Glick. And here's the thing. There are, I think for me, just the last 2 or 3 days, all right, started to look through this book. So we have not read the whole book. So just have that be known. Okay. We haven't read the whole book and can't speak for what's, everything that's in the book. Let me just take a quick side note. I got a couple of messages from people who had watched Janice Barcelo. That was the lady who was given the talk last week that we put in the Samba. lesson last week, and they had mentioned, they said, hey, just so you know, she said something to the effect of like, the Jews know that the white people are God's chosen people, and that's why they blah blah blah. Okay. And so they said, I just want to let you know that was in there. And so let me just say this just so you all understand. So when Dwayne does a lesson, right, and he's pulling excerpts and clips, he always likes to make the source material available. So if it's like, for example, I'm about to read a couple clips from this book. So you're seeing the book title. So if you want to get the book and read it in its entirety, you can. If he's pulling a clip from a video, he posts that video on BondTube. So if you want to hear the whole talk, you can, right? But we are pulling from these, like, for example, that lady, Janice Barcelo. We're showing those clips because she is a subject matter expert on the topic of circumcision. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if we give you the source material, you please know, and most of you already know this, but for those that don't, it's never an endorsement of everything that the author may say or the speaker may say. Okay, we're clipping or an excerpting the information because they're a subject matter expert on that topic. Okay, not in theology, not in doctrine, this and that, but just on this topic. Okay, so I just want to say that for those that did not know that.
I do know too, it's little things like that we're gonna have to keep repeating for some people. Because in that video last week, I pointed out some of the things, like I said, she had the big eye or whatever.
Yeah.
So my loving people, my lovely people, again, like she just said, everything she said, there are a ton of things that we share. Okay. When I'm pointing out something I'll be very clear and say, listen, we're going to focus on this, and this, disagree with that. Try to stay
your flesh, circumcision from ancient Judea to modern America by Leonard Glick. Okay. And so I was really, I couldn't get off of that, assertion that circumcision was added to the text around 500 BC, right? So he found this book, and this book does, it does give references and so on and so forth. But I want to go to, let me go ahead. Christian have studied the Torah with critical historical methods that have yielded a great deal of insight into when, how, and why the various parts of the 5 books were composed. We want to know what their research can tell us about the place of infant circumcision in Judaism and about how Genesis 17 fits into the picture. Okay, Genesis 17 is where the Most High speaks to Abram or Abraham and says, this is going to be a covenant between you and me. Circumcise all of the young baby boys, right, on the 8th day. Okay. We want to know how Genesis 17 fits into the picture. Who composed it? When? And most people say, oh, Moses composed it, right? But when and why did the author or authors select male infant circumcisions as the sign of the covenant? One point now seems certain. No single individual wrote the Torah. Biblical scholars have shown that the 5 books consist of a number of texts composed over several centuries by authors with distinctive mentalities, styles, and eventually all the books were assembled sometime shortly after 500 BC. Most scholars recognize 4 texts labeled J, E, D, and P. What you're seeing on your screen, J is for Jahwist, E is Elohist, D is Deuteronomist, and P is priestly. Okay. The earliest, J, stands for Jahwist. That is the text in which Yahweh or Jehovah appears as the deity. In E, in green on your screen, he is often called Elohim, literally gods. These two probably composed during the 10th and 9th centuries BCE, include parts of what are now Genesis, Exodus, and Numbers. The text called D, constituting most of Deuteronomy, was composed in the 7th century. Finally, P, in red, the priestly text. Finally, P was the work of the priestly class that emerged into prominence in the late 6th century after the return from Babylon, from the Babylonian exile. Also a composite text, it includes nearly all of Leviticus and much of Genesis, including chapter 17, Exodus, and Numbers. All of the various texts were combined into a single Torah in the 5th century BCE by an unknown author or authors known as redactor. Genesis 17 is a part of P in red. The last text to be composed, but the first to mention circumcision. So let me just read on. As I mentioned, these men were priests, members of the elite class who assumed virtually complete social authority in the newly reconstituted Judean society that arose after the Babylonian exile. Recalling that around 586 BCE, the Babylonians conquered Judea, destroyed the Jerusalem temple, and exiled Babylonian priests and other members of the social elite. And the prophets of danger and doom, particularly Jeremiah and Ezekiel, had proven correct that basically the Most High punished the Judeans for worshiping other gods. 60 years later, the Persian king Cyrus conquered Babylon and permitted the return of those Judeans who wanted to do so. What I'm saying to you, and what this book is saying, is that in the text J that you see on your screen in gold, which was the earliest, in the text E, which came next, in the text D, you do not see infant circumcision. It is not there. It is not in Genesis 17. It is not there. It was not until we were exiled to Babylon, many of the priestly class and the elite exiled to Babylon, there for 60 years, and then permitted by Cyrus to return to Jerusalem. Then the text, the priestly, what's there in red, the priestly text was composed. And that is the first time where you see infant circumcision. That was where you see it interjected in Genesis 17. So ultimately, infant circumcision was not there. It was not present until we went and learned the ways of the Babylonians. And we brought that back with us and injected it into the text. Because also when you read in Genesis 15, where it says that, Genesis 15, where it says, after these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your exceeding great reward." Abram said, "Lord God," again, I'm just reading, KJV or whatever, in KJV. "Lord God, what will you give me, seeing that I go childless, and the heir of my house is Eleazar of Damascus?" Then Abram said, "Look, you have given me no offspring. Indeed, one born in my house, there's basically, I don't have an heir. Okay. I don't have an heir." And so basically, the Lord promises that you're going to have an heir, so on and so forth. Just like you can't count the stars, so shall your descendants be. This is all in Genesis 15. And through that passage in Genesis 15, after he hears that word, he seals it and offers up a sacrifice. But there's no mention of circumcision in Genesis 15. In Genesis 17, we have that the similar story, but with the addition of circumcision. And so and I'm still researching this some more. I'm going to go through all the footnotes in this book. I'm going to go find his.
Okay, so what she was basically pointing out there, in that clip there, what she was pointing out was the fact that this whole thing, this concept of infant circumcision, wasn't something that wasn't introduced in the Bible until much later. Once you look at the Bible, again, this is why it's important to look at it from a historical perspective, not just looking at the text itself, but understanding the people that were behind it, who put the Bible together, how it was put together, how it was laid out, the whole nine. And I have another clip that I am going to show you where a guy really goes into that, because you have to understand that too. The problem is, particularly for when you're dealing with a culture that just God said it, I believe it, and that settles it. I'm just reading the text, stay in the text, that's it. But if you're not taking the text and saying, okay, let me superimpose it on actual factual proven history and see where everything falls into place, when you're not doing that, you miss a lot of stuff. And that's what she was doing there. Also, another thing I want to point out as well is that this video that we did that I'm showing you, this video was actually done when my wife and I, we were actually making our way out of the Hebrew space. And so let me see. I'm going to get out of this video here. I want to see if I can pull that other video, because I remember I told you there were two videos on this. Let me see if I can find this. It was a clip of another guy that was giving a presentation that was actually explaining this, like what she was explaining. I want you to hear that too. So give me just a moment. Let me know how you guys are and where you are and everything. I still got your attention. You still around? Are you alive? I mean, are you in on this? Are you learning something? Let me know in the chat as I am doing this right here. Let me see where that is. So glad. It's so good when you have your stuff together here. Let me see. Let me see if I can find this thing here. Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. It was this one. These are things that, all right, let me move that over here. Yeah, because all I see on this end are people's names. That's it. I don't see anything else. So, yeah, just a heartbeat, something. Let me know you're alive. Okay. And, but yeah, someone said, I grew up thinking Abraham started it. Yeah, he did not. Again, this is something that goes way back beyond Abraham, and it's not something that was only practiced in the Levant. This was something that was practiced literally all over the world. You look at many different cultures, you'll see in various cultures, they also do practice circumcision. However, it is circumcision. The reason why it's done for religious purposes. It is not done for any kind of health or wellness purposes. It's done mainly for religious purposes. When they did when they would do circumcision, there's no biological benefit to it at all. There isn't. And so I just wanted to make sure you understand that when Kellogg, when he was introducing it as a way of sexual control. He wasn't doing it because there was some kind of health benefit to it. That's what you'll hear people say now, that there's a health benefit to it. And that isn't really proven, because all you got to do is look this up and find out, okay, before they were mandating circumcision in hospitals, what were the rates of sexual diseases amongst men prior to that? And you'll see that it really wasn't anything. It didn't even exist. I mean, you had some things going on, but not to the level where it mandated some kind of drastic action like this. But it wasn't that at all. So anyway, let me go to Coach said, in a nutshell, basically it has demonic origins. Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Okay, so let me go here. This is going to be in 5. And Coach, by the way, I wanted to mention this to you. I have been this week, I be doing so much. I've been looking at ethnomathematics. I'm gonna be doing a video on that soon, and why it's so important for us to learn concepts like math and stuff from an ethnic standpoint. And I've been really getting into that, just this whole week. That's why I kind of been silent on, than doing videos. So anyway, so what I'm gonna do now, let me switch up. I'm gonna drop this video in and let me get it queued up to the part that I want y'all to see on that. And then we can open the floor up to any kind of questions or anything that people may have. So let me drop this video here, okay? All right, let's go. The nerves at the let me read this to you. I thought, okay, hold on, can you can hear me? Okay, yeah, let me read this to you. Sodomy. Okay, so again, this is all tied in to the circumcision thing. Not that, just follow me, okay? What happens during sodomy? And they said attacks the nerves at the base of the spine, causes something neurological to happen within the brain, changes the way the mind works, affects the person's mind in a way that nothing else will. For a person to be able to develop multiple personalities, they would have to be sodomized between 2 and 4. I'm going to pause there for a second because I'm going to pause there for a moment because I want to make sure you heard what I just said. So sodomy, and she's talking within the concept, within the confines of sodomy, as in not 2 grown men, but if you're dealing with a child, and if it's a child involved, that kind of thing. That's what she's talking about. When a child goes through this is what she's saying happens to the child. Causes something neurological to happen within the brain. Changes the way the mind works, affects the person's mind in a way that nothing else will. For a person to be able to develop multiple personalities, they will have to be sodomized between 2 and 4. So when you have people out here that are saying identifying as a man or identifying as a woman or identifying as whatever, I know my camera's out here. When you have people who are identifying, what is going on here? Sorry, I'm here, y'all. Just give me a moment here. But when you have people who are identifying with these different, that they're this, that, or whatever. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust my camera here. Shoot, what the heck happened? All right, hold on. All right, I'll see if that works. If that don't work, I'll figure something out. Anyway, so when you have, boy, hold on, let's see. I'll just have to go with this camera then. All right, so I'll do this camera here. I don't like this camera, but okay, I don't know why that camera went out. But anyway, I have to kind of look. Okay, so I'll look this way. All right, so when you have my face all greasy and everything, okay, but when you have people out here that are trying to identify with, I identify as someone else. I identify as a furry. I identify, you're a man, you identify as a woman. You're a woman, you identify as a man, or whatever it is. What they are saying, what she is saying here in this video on that slide there, and like I said, I got the video over there, but what's being said here is that in order for someone to get to that point, what had to happen is that they were more than likely sodomized. Something happened to them in their childhood that caused a neurological change in their brain for them to be open enough to all of a sudden now they're identifying with everything. So that's what they're saying here. All right, give me just a moment here. All right. So what I'm gonna do now? Let me bring up this video here, and I'm gonna cue it up for you guys so that we can watch that this other video. Oh, what is going on? Hold on. Give me just a moment here. Thank y'all for your patience here while I'm trying to get. Okay, so it's not that one. It's going to be this one. All right, so let me drop this video here, and I'm going to be scrubbing it. So just watch it here, okay? All right, hold on for a sec. We're going to transition. Great Father Snake smells your foreskin. He's calling for it. Now, if you dig into this a little bit more, which we're not going to really get into, the Father Snake that they're referring to, now this is the part where you're really going to have to hold on to your seats because, like I said, we're just going to have to keep it 100% here, okay? And so, in short, I'll just tell you this. So what you're looking at right now on the screen, of course, are pictures of little boys that are they're not happy. They're in very extreme pain. Okay. And then on the right hand side, what you see here is the table that is typically used to strap down babies as they're being circumcised. Okay. We're going to get into this part here. Like I said, this part here is going to be one that is going to be a bit challenging to watch some of this stuff here. I mean, I'll let you know when. Okay. But some of this is going to be very challenging, but I will say this though. I know for some of you, it may be a bit of a wrestle right now mentally, when you go to scripture and you're saying, well, wait a minute, all these scriptures talk about the importance of being circumcised. But now what we're going to do is we're going to learn from a medical standpoint of just how dangerous this is. Okay, and so we're going to play some video clips here, and you'll get to hear really what goes on here, okay? Let's see. Okay, so yeah, I think I got everything, and now I need to find that video, and I already got my time markers here, so just give me a moment here, and then we're going to get into it, okay? Now, we're going to, as far as the scriptures are concerned, as far as all the ones that are dealing with circumcision, that's why I said there's no way in the world we'll be able to handle all of that in one day. There's no way in the world. But, we are going to have a broadcast where we are going to look at all of those scriptures, point by point, and we're going to look at these things very closely. Okay. So I just want to be aware of that. We're not going to just gloss over that. Okay. So let me get this here. So let's start with, and I see my time. I understand if you got to go, I do understand, but the video will be available, as you know, for those of you who are brand new, we'll have the video up and you'll be able to see it later on. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to put on this video here. You're going to see me swiping a little bit and let's go. So this first clip is going to be 17 minutes long. Okay. And so, yeah, I'll just go ahead and play it.
Circumcision is the most common surgery in America. Whether or not you choose to learn about it, it's there, directly impacting the majority of American men in the most intimate way possible.
Circumcision is the absolute, most unbelievable, disgusting attack that we could ever conceive of. Strapping an infant to a torture board, literally strapping his arms and his legs to a torture board so that all he can do is move his head, sometimes shoving a pacifier in his mouth so he's choking on his screams while you systematically jam a sharp metal instrument into his penis sticking it in between the foreskin, which is attached to the glands, jamming it in there, and then ripping the foreskin off of the glands of the penis without anesthetic. 96% of the time, the babies are given nothing.
Many Americans have never taken the time to think deeply about circumcision. Circumcision is the surgical removal of the foreskin, the foremost part of the male penis. And in America, it is typically performed on infants within the first few days of life. No other industrialized country routinely practices non-religious infant circumcision other than America. Isn't it odd that Americans have never had a national conversation about one of the central practices of their culture, a practice which affects so many on such a personal level?
Now, so I'm arguing that it's this big thing and that we don't talk about it a lot. So I have to sort of explain why I think that. So I believe the discourse that we have in our culture about circumcision is one that's used to conceal what the nature of the process is. So you may have heard things like, well, it makes the penis cleaner or something like that. You may have heard things like, everyone does it, I'm circumcised and I'm fine. It's just a little snip, or it removes a useless flap of skin, the sort of trivializing language. You may have heard all these things. What I'm asking you to do right now is to set all that aside, all that massive experience in your minds, and to try and come at it from a fresh angle where these sort of illogical arguments or support for it are not part of where you're thinking. I'm going to propose that circumcision is this cyclical process in our culture where we do it to children, they grow up, they become adult survivors, some of those people become parents, and practitioners engage them in order to perform this surgery on their children, which, unlike any other surgery I'm aware of in U.S. hospitals, it removes a healthy, unique organ part, actually with the exception of intersex genital modification, which it bears a lot of resemblance to in my mind. It removes a healthy part of the body. It's not used as a treatment. Doctors don't think they're treating the children. They know that it's a social surgery they're performing. It has significant complications. It's performed on minors who can't give consent. It's illegal. It's actually a federal felony to perform it on girls, but it's actually encouraged to perform on boys. It results in lifelong function loss, and the tissue is then used commercially.
And so when I first Googled circumcision in 2012, the conversation has changed in 6 years. I know, because I've been paying attention. But 6 years ago, the general consensus was, between all news sources, ABC, NBC, Time, New York Times, Washington Post, Scientific American, and so on, was that circumcision was cleaner, healthier, prevented STDs and HIV, and was endorsed by the Scientific Academy, the American Academy of Pediatrics. Now, this sounded great. It created a coherent narrative in my mind. If circumcision was good for you, then of course I and all my friends were circumcised, obviously. However, I stumbled across a website that aggregated quotes about circumcision throughout all time, and something struck me about the Jewish ones. Let me show you. See if you can strike a pattern. Circumcision is a symbol of two things necessary to our well-being: the excision of sexual pleasure and to check a man's pride. 30 AD. The bodily pain is the real purpose of circumcision. One of the reasons is to bring about a decrease in sexual intercourse and a weakening of the organ. The fact that circumcision reduces sexual pleasure is undeniable. 1180 AD. Okay, well, these are ancient history. The foreskin represents man's worst animal-like urges. I like my animal-like urges. Impairment of sexual sensation is a special virtue of circumcision. 1985. Not too long before I was born.
Okay, so I want to make sure you see all of that. So this whole concept of circumcision, it didn't start with the Jews, because these Jewish people, they actually got that from, it goes like as far back as Rome, and even goes even further back to Babylon. Okay. And so it should make you think for a moment, okay, if circumcision is supposedly a sign of holiness and being set apart, then why the heck is the United States at one time, because the United States is not really leading in that, and it's kind of it's decreased over the years, but why is it mandatory in these sinful nations? It's because, again, going back to these Jewish people, again, look at what's on the screen again. This is a practice that they meticulously pushed over the years. And this is a foundational part of what we call today Judaism. And so he's going to get into it a little bit, but this was something that not only was designed to reduce the man, so to speak, but also have a direct impact on the woman. So something was taken away with this thing that we call the foreskin. All right. So let me go ahead and let him continue to talk.
Now, these quotes didn't quite sync with the mainstream narrative. Was circumcision good for me, or did it damage my sexuality? Now, remember, I was a 20-year-old male at the time. Not many things were more important to me than the health of my penis. And that still applies today.
If we go back far enough, what we find is that fathers were circumcising their children, not ritually in the Jewish style, but as a sacrifice to whatever deities they were sacrificing to at the time. As a matter of fact, some scholars have given us pretty good evidence that circumcision may have evolved as a substitute for child sacrifice. How did it become a Jewish ritual is the question. There you have to look at the Bible, the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, in which the creator of the universe appears to a 99-year-old man named Abraham, tells him that he will be able to impregnate his elderly 90-year-old wife, and that their children will give rise to a tremendous nation. However, he says, you must cut the flesh of your foreskin. What happened at first was a fairly simple removal of the front part of the foreskin and no more. It was only later that practice evolved further, first because Jewish men during the Hellenistic period wanted to perform in athletic contests naked, and they didn't want to seem to be circumcised, so they pulled the remaining foreskin back, what's now called restoration. They pulled the remaining foreskin back and clipped it actually in front so as to have a normal looking penis again. In order to stop them from doing that, the rabbis then instituted a second phase they called priyah, which meant removing the rest of the foreskin and removing it, a much more radical procedure. It's important to understand that because the kind of circumcision that is performed in Jewish ritual is essentially identical to what is done in the United States. This very radical and very destructive kind of circumcision in which practically all of the foreskin is removed.
So, the story begins 12,000 years ago. Sigmund Freud surmised that circumcision started as a step down from child sacrifice. So instead of sacrificing the child, you would just sacrifice an essential part of him, his genitals. Now these genital blood sacrifices eventually lessened until just parts of his genitals were sacrificed, his foreskin. Now, many people erroneously believe, if you can believe it, many people erroneously believe something, but many people erroneously believe that circumcision started in the Old Testament, the Jewish Holy Book. Actually, Judaism adopted circumcision from tribes circumcising in the area. But if we take a look at the Holy Covenant in Genesis, we can see what it has to say. Every male among you who is 8 days old must be circumcised. Whether born or bought with your money, they must be circumcised. Any uncircumcised male will be cut off from his people. Now, a couple things to notice here. Every baby must be circumcised, and slaves too, because that was cool at the time. And if you weren't, you were cut off from your people, which was tantamount to a death sentence in ancient times. Now, Leonard Glick, who is a Jewish man with a medical degree and a PhD in cultural anthropology with a specialty in genital cutting, assures me that this is not even the original covenant. It was appended to the Bible in 500 BC for 2 reasons. Now, the first reason is the child is circumcised when he is a baby, so he has absolutely no choice in the matter. This forever forces him to look Jewish. Now, this promotes tribal cohesiveness, a primary objective of all tribal leaders, as they have a vested interest to maintain the social order of the tribe as they enjoy their status at the top of it. Now, The second reason is a little more interesting and plays to the underlying psychology behind genital cutting cultures. But let's use a modern day example, fraternity hazing. Who here thinks that hazing is just a malicious exercise of power? A fair number. See, that's not exactly correct. See, hazing is an effective strategy if you want your fraternity to survive. See, hazing plays to an underlying psychological mechanism that enables group survival. See, what we do as humans is we ascribe value to the pain or suffering we endure as the price we pay to join a group or tribe. See, if you're just let into the fraternity, you could easily think, nah, and leave. However, after paying a great price in blood, sweat, tears, and body parts, you know it must be valuable. See, Judaic circumcision operates under that same psychological principle. See, ancient Judea was, and still is to a certain extent, an intensely patriarchal society. Male blood represented salvation, female blood represented filth, men ran everything. And nothing was more important to a man than his patriarchal lineage. And nothing represented his patriarchal lineage more than his son. Or even more specifically, his son's penis. So, to be accepted into this fraternity, the Jewish Brotherhood, fathers, likely younger than you, and far less educated, since this was thousands of years ago, were literally hazed into cutting off parts of their son's penis. You think college hazing is a problem? Circumcision is the most extreme form of hazing on the planet. And if you didn't do it, you were cut off from your people, which was effectively a death sentence. Yeah, we're going there. Now, Leonard Glick does a great job of summarizing circumcision in ancient Judea in his book. He says, in summary, the father offers his son's foreskin as a bloody sacrifice for what may have been a substitute for child sacrifice. He acknowledges, for what may have been he declares acknowledgement of paternity, readiness to submit the child to a perilous procedure, avowal of sexual restraint of his own and his son in the future, and intention to raise him as a conforming member of the male-centered collective, and in summary, offers his submission to the elder's will. Whoa. Do you understand what this means? See, contrary to the popular narrative, circumcision was designed to mark us like cattle. Circumcision was designed to emasculate us like slaves. Circumcision was designed to damage us like we're not even human. That is what circumcision was designed to do. And all this talk about circumcision is not even the circumcision you'd recognize today. See, Judaism underwent an overhaul around 200 AD during a diasporic period. It was called the Rabbinic period, as rabbis redid everything to accommodate the needs of a more dispersed population. Now, when rabbis were redoing everything, they redid, you guessed it, the covenant of circumcision as well. See, around 200 AD, Jews didn't want to be circumcised back then either. So, what they would do is they would take their remnant foreskin and stretch it over the head of their penis, and over a period of time, they would look uncircumcised like a Gentile. Now, this allowed Jews of ancient Greece to better fit in with their Gentile peers, as many social events were done in the nude, whether they be public spas or athletic events or whatnot. Now, undoing the Holy Covenant was anathema to rabbinic authority. So rabbis took revenge. Rabbis took revenge. And to take their revenge, they radicalized the circumcision ritual, from just cutting off the overhanging tip of the foreskin to ablation of the entire tissue. So, the new circumcision ritual, the one that stands to this day, goes like this. And it's called the bris milah, which means the covenant of cutting.
Circumcision became the major symbol of difference for Christians between Judaism and Christianity. This dates back to Paul's letters, Galatians, Corinthians, and others. He says specifically there that circumcision does not matter.
It was so amazing to me when I worked in the hospital. And my first question would be, I see that you're going to have the baby circumcised. And may I ask why you've chosen circumcision for your baby? And they would say, oh, because I'm a Christian. And I said, do you know that there's 120 references to circumcision in the New Testament? Circumcision is of no value. If you're a Christian, you don't live by outward signs. You live by faith expressed through love. Christ was the last to shed the blood. He was the ultimate blood sacrifice for everybody. We don't need to do this again. Oh, I didn't know that.
People are not just Christians, they are Americans, and circumcision is an American procedure.
They're practicing something because they consider they're this, without ever really understanding what that means.
The next question that we come to is, how in the world did this get to become an American custom? In Victorian England in the late 19th century, there was already well embedded the belief that masturbation was a particularly dangerous business. That loss of semen would weaken a child permanently, might give him all kinds of sickness. They said, we can stop this very dangerous habit by performing circumcision.
We know that circumcision began in England to prevent masturbation.
Masturbation was seen as this horrible thing that could cause all kinds of diseases and insanity.
And that just took hold. You know, we are a fairly prudish culture.
And it sounds crazy to us today, but in those days, this was accepted.
Doctors in the 1860s and 1870s claimed that this would reduce the child's sexual sensation. But then in the 1960s, it began to disappear as an idea. Can you guess why? Because the sexual revolution made having sexual pleasure permissible for the first time, basically, in American culture. And so all of a sudden, the meme, the theme that you were damaging your child sexually was no longer good advertising. So it just simply went, bing, it disappeared. And now if you talk to physicians, they will claim utterly that circumcision is not sexually damaging, that it's sexually neutral, and that there's no harm in it. And they forget entirely the medical history they have in their own occupation that claimed exactly the opposite for over 100 years.
Now, how did we get here, right? So it's become a medical practice rather than a tribal practice or a cultural practice. And that came about in the late 1800s when people had not the germ theory of disease, but the nervous excitation theory of disease. And they also had the Victorian morality. So people see what they expect to see a lot of the time. So you can find a lot of published medical literature showing that circumcision cured things like paralysis and epilepsy and hip joint disease and all sorts of problems that today seem very unlikely for the process to have cured. And people really thought that actually the intention was to harm the genitals of children. And they thought that that would help them in the long term because it would prevent them from having so much sexual excitation. That, in the Victorian model, being the most dangerous kind of nervous excitation you could have.
Okay, so yeah, there's a lot there. And that's why I said that documentary. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, you guys should be able to hear me now. Okay. Shoot. Hold on, I'm still here, y'all. I'm just trying to figure out something that just went away. Hold on. Okay, it's not that one. Okay, so, all right, it's the bottom one. That's my reference. Okay, so there I am right there. Okay. All right, let me switch here. Okay, so let's just switch here for a second. Okay, so anyway, so you got all of that backdrop there as far as like circumcision and how it like slowly evolved to where it is today. Folks, there's a whole lot more I can get into this. So what I'm trying to do is I want to really condense it. I can go as long as I can go all day with this, but I'm gonna really try to condense this even more as we're going on. If you go to our YouTube page, our other YouTube page, which is Samba Journeys, not Samba Journeys, Long Form History. Long Form History, just do a search for our other YouTube channel called Long Form History. I have a clean version where it just goes from point A to point Z with all of this, and I got it all edited up and all of that for you. So if you want a clean version of this, you can just head over there and you can watch it there at your leisure there. So what we're seeing right now is basically more the history on how this whole thing about circumcision, how it evolved. We've established that no, this was not something that was came from God down to earth to Abraham and all of this. That is what has been drilled in your minds. And many of you, unfortunately, just like I did, I had the mindset of God said it, I believe it, and that settles it. Why? Because it's in this book. And like Massa always says, you got to trust. I'm looking over there. You got to trust what's in the book. The book says this. This is what the book says, Dwayne. We are not to deviate from this book. We're not to question this book at all. And many of us have adopted that. And by doing that, we have basically developed this fear of even questioning or even launching into the deep and even questioning and analyzing this stuff and asking these questions and finding out, where did this stuff even come from? Where did it really come from? And what you're going to find is that this is a very barbaric practice that is done on boys. You saw the clip, and I'm going to show you, I'll bring it up in a moment, the clip where they literally have this table. For those of you who have young children, young boys, that you had them circumcised, many of you did not see it. You didn't see the circumcision take place. Most time they will tell you, no, you got to stay in here. Do you want to know why they do that? You want to know why? Let me give you an example. And this is something I covered in that series. When our children were smaller, they play around, they scream, they holler and all that kind of stuff. Parents instinctively know, oh, they're just playing. They're just playing around. So when you hear them screaming and stuff, they're just playing around. But there's a certain type of scream that a child does when they are in danger. It is almost the equivalent of a bat signal. You just know as a parent, something ain't right. And then what instinctively happens inside of you as a parent when you hear that type of scream coming from your child? When that happens, when you hear that scream coming from your child, it is almost like everything else it's like you just get tunnel vision. That's the only way I can describe it. It's literally like you get this tunnel vision and you just like, everything drops. I'm going to rescue my child. That is something that we have been given as parents. We have all been given that. And so these demonic hospitals, what they do is that they know that if you hear your child in the other room screaming like that, that natural instinct is going to flare up, and they ain't gonna be able to stop you. So they have to get you. They have to wait till you're at your weakest point to be able to take care of business. Take you on another wing. Take your child on another wing, on another floor somewhere, so that you can't hear that scream. That's why they do it. And I don't know if I'm gonna get in on all of this or not, but I'm just giving you the bits and stuff. Because I'm trying to speed this up a little bit, but this is something else here. This is something else. There are two ways, they said there are two ways that little boys react when they're going through this trauma. Now, I want you to pay attention to this. They said there are two ways that they have noticed that boys react when they're getting circumcised. Number one is the obvious one. They scream, they holler at the top of their voice. It's a very sad thing, and I will be playing a clip on that. I think I have it somewhere. That's number one. But then they said there's another way that they notice that these little boys, how they react. They said they go real quiet. And they said it's almost like an eerie quiet. It's like what it is, they said little boys will go into shock. See, the parent, the medical staff, when they're doing the cutting and they notice that, typically what they're going to say, oh, he is such a good boy. Oh, he's such a good boy. You see how quiet he is? No, he's in shock. It's trauma. You are inflicting trauma on him, and he goes into shock. Ladies and gentlemen, please hear what I'm saying. Please hear what I'm saying on this, because you're going to see in a moment how this is connected. They said these little boys go into shock when they're circumcised. And so they go quiet. Now, there's so many people out here today that will get here on social media, and they will talk about how men today Well, the problem I have with men today is that you don't really express yourself. You don't really talk things out. You don't tell me what's going on. What I am saying to you is that more than likely that stems from, was a combination of other things in their lives. But where did they first get that lesson? On that circumcision table. They went into such shock, they had to internalize that pain. And when a child, that's why I was showing all that other stuff in the beginning, you know, when they were talking about what pornography, they were talking about, you know, what these different people were doing to children and all of that stuff, because I wanted you to understand when these evil, wicked, demonic people, this is their goal, is not necessarily just immediate sexual gratification for them, meaning these adults, but it's to imprint these children permanently. This matrix system knows that if it can first get to men and imprint them permanently, they will forever, for the rest of their lives, be emotionally compromised. And then at some point in the video, like I said, again, you have to watch the video there, they talked about the thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of nerve endings that are in that foreskin that get cut off, and how they're tied to your neurological system and even psychologically, and how you relate to women. I'm talking about just, you know, on an emotional level, not even sexual. Not even sexual. And I'm kind of like just speeding it up here because, like I said, I don't know what other clips. I have a bunch of clips here, but I'm just getting it all out now because I want to make sure that people are getting all of this stuff. When we talk about that piece, right, that they cut off. Well, let me just say this first. Men, listen, when you look at your penis, when you look at that part there, that line that you see there, that line that you have grown accustomed to looking at and seeing, oh, I was just born that way. No, you were not. You were not born that way. That is a line that was created by these doctors. They did that. They damaged you. That is damage. That is not a birthmark. That is damage. Do you hear what I'm saying? They damaged you. When they did that cut like that, that's why you look at some men, that the thing all jacked up, it's all messed up. That's damage. They damaged you. And everything from that line up, it was a sheath that had thousands upon thousands upon thousands of nerve endings. And what is that sheath for when it comes to sexual relations? I talked about this in the video. They did a study and they found that women who engage in intercourse with men who are not circumcised, they found that it's a lot easier for men, or rather for women. It is not as abrasive as it is when that sheath is off. When that sheath is off, women have, if they, women who get around, obviously, when they, if they're having relations with someone who's been circumcised versus someone who hasn't been circumcised, you'll find that women find that men who are not circumcised, it's a lot easier for them versus men who have been circumcised. Men who have been circumcised, women have, the survey they did, they said women say that it's a little rougher. It takes a little more time for them to get used to it. Now, for men, when they take that sheath off, not only are you compromising them emotionally, psychologically, but what's happening is that you are heightening their sexual experience. So just imagine someone rips off your nerve endings. They just rip it and everything's exposed, right? Guess what? You're going to feel things a lot more. So this feeds into what? Pornography. So when you are exposed like that, and you have sexual intercourse with a woman, the next thing you're like, oh, it can't be, it's never one. You got to have another one. You got to have another relationship. You got to have another sexual encounter. You got to have another one. Because what did they do? When they removed that sheath, what they did is that they exposed it. They made it even more sensitive, feeding into you where you are more addicted to sex versus seeing sex as just something that's just natural. And, you know, that's it. You ain't just running around doing doing what you're doing, what people do today. And this is a direct pipeline to pornography. So again, for those of you just getting in, this is mutilation. Men, when you look at your penis and you see that line there, that is mutilation. Did you know that here in the United States, the CDC doesn't even track these cases? Now, if these are women, they would track them, wouldn't they? But for you as men, they don't even track it. Do you know how many men out here are walking around and they are mutilated? It's really bad. Like, it's really, really bad. For those of you on the continent of Africa, let me talk to you. In this video, I talked about how in South Africa, they looked at several groups in South Africa who have been doing this practice for like umpteen years. I know it was South Africa. They may have looked at Uganda. There was like a few other countries they looked at. So again, these are practices that's been around for many years, even before the Bible and all of that. I mean, circumcision is something that you'll find in many cultures. What they found is that there is a high rate of mutilation beyond repair. That this happens all the time. It happens a lot in places like Africa and other places. And they say they are finding that there's also a significant number of people who actually die because of it. Now, if this is something that's natural, if it's so natural, why would you die from it? Why would you die for something like that if it's natural? If this is something that you are supposed to go through, why would you die from it? Let me ask you something, Christian. Let me ask you something, Hebrew. If this was something, if your Bible God required you to cut off part of your penis, then why the heck would he allow you to be born with one in the first place? Does that even make, how can you say everything I created was good, but I forgot to get to the part of your penis, so I'm gonna let you guys take care of that part. It's gonna be painful. It's gonna mess you up psychologically and neurologically. But I kind of ran out of time. I only got 7 days. I want you to hear what I'm saying. I want you to take the time and I want you to process this stuff, because a lot of people do not process things. You just simply repeat. You repeat because the Bible told you, and I'm just going to do it because the Bible told me, and that's it. And so people just do that. They don't stop and think. And I am encouraging you, I'm imploring you to think about what you're doing. Think about it. If your Bible God, if he said he made everything good, then why would he create you with a defective penis? Why would that happen? Make that make sense. You can't make it make sense, because it doesn't. So he's going to leave it up to you to endure all of that pain, all of that suffering, all of that trauma. For what? So this is a very damaging practice for boys. Very damaging. And this is the initiation to get into, as we as boys, especially when we are born into this world, into this system, into this construct, when they have already established, when you are born, you're going to have to you're going to have to go through the hazing process. Like that guy was just pointing out, the hazing process. What's the hazing process? You got to be circumcised. That is hazing. That's what that is. It is a very dark practice. This is very dark. And so for you men out here, that are older, you beyond that, you can't go back. Now they do have things that you can do to, I mean, you can go to, there's certain practices out there where, they take stem cells or whatever, and they can grow skin and actually put things back on and put some skin back on there. I ain't doing that, okay? Because now you're taking stem cells from what? Unborn children? Okay, yeah, that really helps. So no, you don't do that. But what I would say to this, and this will be an ongoing project for me, but for now, I would just start with this. As a man, if you are a man who has been through circumcision, I would just say this, is that as you are going through life and you encounter certain things that just seem a bit overwhelming to you from an emotional perspective, I would highly encourage you to keep the door open for some type of counseling. To have somebody in your life that you can really go to. And let me just be fully transparent here. I want that for myself, quite honestly. I have my wife. I love her dearly. But it would be great to have, if like I said, this is where you miss your father, to have somebody there, an older man that you can really depend on, that you can really trust. And you can kind of like, hey, I've been going through this. What do you think about this? How did you handle this? That kind of thing. So this is a very real thing. You know what I mean? And as men, we need that. You understand? So that's one of the ways. So if you are someone, let's say you just had a child that was circumcised and all of that, I would just say this, just make sure that in their development that you are, I'm not saying baby them or, always keep them mama's boy or whatever. No, I'm not saying that, but, it really encouraged them when they are, I come from a time where they're like, toughen up, boy, that kind of thing. Allow them to emote. You know what I'm saying? If they are having some issues in their emotions and trying to figure things out and all of that, be there for them. You know what I mean? Just kind of let them know, hey, I'm there for you, that kind of thing. Don't leave it up to the internet. Don't leave it up to television to raise them up or to frame them in those areas. Just make sure you're available for them, because there isn't anything real. There are too many avenues outside of home that people can go to get that kind of help. I'm talking about particularly as a man, with that whole red pill movement, what it's done is it filled a void that should have been filled already by strong men in society. Not to say that we don't have them, but, there needs to be more, And so that's where that's why you get this whole red pill thing, So yeah, this is a really interesting. It's a deep topic. It's one that I know that many people do not take seriously enough. And it also stems from Judaism. This is something that stems from Judaism. Okay. And this is a Judaic practice. And so if you are a Hebrew Israelite, if you are, like you heard in the little video, they were talking about where they mentioned the Christians, and they were given like, don't you know in the Bible, in the New Testament, all these practices, it mentions in all of these verses that we don't have to be circumcised and all of that. It's about circumcision of the heart. Let's explore that a little bit. Your heart don't need to be circumcised. What kind of an analogy is that? Think about that for a second. So now we're not saying your penis need to be circumcised. Now we're saying your heart need to be cut. Allow yourself to unpack that for a minute. Your heart damaged? Your heart is deformed in some way, they got to be cut? Well, it's talking about your emotions. It's talking about this. Well, say something else. Why you got to say circumcision? Why your heart got to be circumcised? Why does a part of your heart got to be cut? That's a very bad analogy. That's like me saying, man, if you really care about me, you really going to have to emotionally decapitate yourself from me. What? You got to be emotionally decapitated. What? Who Who says that? It's these people. These people that unfortunately many of our people are locked into wanting to follow, support, love, and cherish, and think that, they could say, it's just, you got to wake up. You got to wake up. Let me take a look at this video here, and let me see if there's anything else. Like I said, again, there's a ton of things in this video here, y'all. But let me just see. Give me just a moment here. I'm just combing through this. Hold on. It's an emergency. A medical procedure.
Supposedly the ones who are bringing in.
Because I knew that they were trying.
Wrong. Sorry, I'm just skipping. Rome. Any stranger. Okay, I don't see it here. Okay, so yeah, but in this, I guess I won't show it then. Okay, we're just going to go with it. But in that video, again, go to long form history. I have it broken up in 2 parts there. But there's a part in there, like I said, that actually plays. You don't see the circumcision, but you hear it as it's going on. And I'm telling you right now, once you hear it, it will never leave you. It's that deep. To hear a child scream like that and to sit back and to think that your child went through that. Now, if you are a person, someone said, did you have your son circumcised? Yes, I did. I was circumcised. My parents, they had me, in the hospital. I went through it. And then my son did too. Again, we're Christians at the time. We just did it because it's in the Bible, so you do it. Like they were saying in the documentary, right? Yeah, so that did happen. There's some cases, there's someone, we talked to many people, but there was a case of someone we know who had their child circumcised, and they said and this is an individual, they actually had a rabbi come in to their house to do the circumcision. All right, they had a rabbi come into their house and do the circumcision, and the person that was telling me this, they said they literally had to leave the house because the scream was something that was just piercing, and they just could not, they couldn't hear it. They didn't want to hear it. But that's totally the opposite. Again, they were only operating in what they knew, just like I was operating in what I knew. You know what I mean? And my parents as well. I don't hold my parents liable for any of that. They were just doing what they knew. You know what I mean? And so they were telling us how they had to leave the house because the screams were so bad while this rabbi was in there butchering their child. And then you want to know what happened. Soon after that, they noticed that the child was having some issues mentally. I think it was like ADHD or something like that. Something along those lines. Mentally, they noticed developmental skills mentally was starting to go off. People don't want to talk about that. They want to look at different injections and stuff like that. But the impact of circumcision, people don't want to talk about that. What if many of these little boys out here that have been that are dealing with ADHD and different mental disorders, what if another contributing factor is in fact circumcision? And that's something. As we're closing on this. Bible followers will tell you that God heals you and all of this stuff, right? If you follow him, healing is the children's bread. Then that should mean that if you get circumcised, that you shouldn't feel any pain. It should be instant healing. Out of all the miracles that Jesus did, you'll never read a story about Jesus healing someone of a circumcision. You ever thought of that? We read about him raising the dead, walking on water, feed the 5,000. opening blind eyes, healing the cripple. But you'll never read a case in the Bible where you hear about someone being healed of a circumcision. I want you to think about that for a second. Isn't that something? A very common trauma, especially in those times. But yet, somehow, he can raise the dead, but he can't, there's no account, a biblical account of him healing someone of a circumcision. Very interesting, isn't it? Anyway, something to think about. Something to think about here. Well, guys, listen, like I said, there's a whole lot more that I definitely have I could show you, but like I said, it's all in that video. I have everything in those videos there. And going to longformhistory.com, you could check that out. Couple of things I just want to bring your attention. This coming week, we will be doing a readathon this coming week over the next few days, where I will be pulling up from many of my sources, various books that were written by Jews, and you will see the books themselves, and we will go right to their direct quotes. And this is going to be done to combat against this foolishness that's out here, where people are suggesting that Jews had no part in the slave trade, or it was a tiny fraction of involvement and all this other stuff. We are going to take the time and we're going to go to their sources. I'm going to show you the book, and we're going to go and we're going to read all the passages. So I got some more homework I'm going to be doing, and I'm just literally going to lay everything out for you, all the quotes, and I'll put it in a PDF or whatever where you can download it and you can have it for yourself. These are going to be quotes that a lot of these, many of you have never seen or read, but trust me, we got them. We got all of them. We got many of them, I should say. And we're just going to do one readathon in the next few days, where we're going to look through all of that so you can see for yourself that, yes, these people were, in fact, heavily involved in the slave trade. So, again, I ask you, black folks, why in the world would you want to mimic or copy these people in any way, shape, or form? Truth is coming out, y'all. The truth is coming out. And I'm seeing on social media right now, it's going down. I mean, it's more and more of it's coming out now. And so we're definitely going to be a part of it. And we're about the truth here. And it's very important because, like I said, because this also involves our children. This involves our children, the lives of our children. And we need to make sure that we are fully equipped with the knowledge and information we need in order to, confront these lies that are out here. So that's why we have that over 700 book thing that I'm doing right now. Go to our community page, and it's right there on how to purchase it. Over 700 books. I got a ton of books just on those topics alone, along with a lot of other stuff there. That's you looking to build your library. I'm giving you an entire library, and then there'll be more books that will be added soon. All right. So anyway, that's it. I think we've been on here long enough. Thank you guys for your patience as we was going through experienced some technical stuff here on this end, but we got through it, didn't we? So anyway, that's it. And again, one more reminder, if you want to watch the whole presentation in its entirety, I have it over on our long form history channel. If you're not subscriber to it, make sure you're subscribed. I got a lot of other history type videos over there too you could check out. And that's it. But I wanted to spend this part of Saturday just going through this very important topic, because we do have to take this seriously. The lives of our children should be of utmost importance, and we also have to confront the lies of this matrix system. And this matrix system, what it's about, it is about indoctrination from the very beginning. From the moment we're born, they're immediately at work. But what it does, it programs our minds to normalize these things. It is not normal to damage the bodies of boys. That's not normal. That's not normal at all. We fight for our women, but we're going to also fight for our boys too. All right. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for tuning in, you guys. Listen, you take care, and I'll see you next time. Take care.